Hey everyone, and welcome to F4 Obsessed, a deep dive, a weekly show where we discuss F4 Thailand from a symbolic and meta perspective. I'm Ty, your host, and my co-host is Marie Claire, who I call MC. Say hi, MC.
Hello. And I wanted to say just briefly, before we get too far into this episode, I'm what the fiction in the comments section. So if you're having a conversation with me, it's me.
Yeah, if you're talking to someone in the comments under the channel name What the Fiction, that is Marie Claire, that is MC. And then I comment under the channel name Wit and Folly. So that's just how we operate because we both have our own channels. So, and if you don't know already, we are Hana Yori Dango fans, and we truly adore this story. We are here for it. Before we get further into the comments that we typically do, we wanted to first thank everyone who has been watching and listening and interacting with our show. We really appreciate you all. Please remember to like the video if you're watching it on YouTube. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel name Wit and Folly, and to share the episode whenever possible. It helps people find the show and helps our little community to grow. And if you ring the notification bell, it will also help you stay up to date for when a new episode drops.
Yeah, and I wanted to say I have been following some of the commentary and discussions that have been happening on my drama list, and they even shouted out the show, a few of them. So thank you for sharing that and talking about it, and then coming to our comment section to have the conversation. It's become more rich because of everybody participating in it, and it's been super enjoyable. If you're only looking for the audio, feel free to subscribe to What the Fiction's podcast. You can take it with you, go for a walk, and it helps you sort of just re-listen to what we're saying, because there's a lot. This show is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it really is. Every episode is getting progressively like better and better. It's just working off of so many things that we love so much. So yeah, let's get into the comments. So last week we had a lot of really good conversation, especially about like character motivations and like the little details that we were talking about. Like a lot of people had really good ideas, and it was just really fun. So a few that I want to highlight this week are Shruti Mazumdar, who's a frequent commenter, said that, and this is just a part of their comment, by the way. A lot of people comment quite a lot, so I can only take little snippets from each, so I apologize for that. But Shruti said, episode 4 Easter egg, the tune that plays when Cunning checks her balance only to find 12 bots remaining is an homage to Star Number Meteor from Meteor Garden 2018. The first 8 notes are identical. Timestamp is 11:53 on the part 5 of episode 4. And the second part of the comment said that from Glauco, the brother.
Yes.
don't know how to say that one. But her brother's dinner table narration, I realized why Gorya dresses the way she does. It's because she's older and her clothes are hand-me-downs to her brother. She's always in loose shirts and baggy pants outside of school because that's what her parents buy her. That was a great observation.
You will tell in a little bit, but I am obsessed with the costume design of this show. It has become my every day of the week obsession. I'm so sorry, Ty. You have to put up with my constant commentary on it between recordings, because I'm thinking about it all the time now. It's become so, like, I've become very fixated, obsessed even.
Yeah,
F4 obsessed with it.
F4 obsessed, exactly. MC has taken it on herself to like do this entire analysis, which we do have a slide on, and we will continue to do that on the show. I'll get into that later, but it's been funny because we do talk a lot about this during the week before the episode, because we're typically rewatching the other versions and kind of sharing our thoughts. And like the one thing that MC has been fixated on is the costuming of the show. Like she cannot leave it alone.
I'm sorry.
So it's great though. I thoroughly enjoy it. And also I wanted to give a shout out to Danny from Twitter, who is not able to comment on the videos. They're on Twitter at Naraktisud. Sorry, they are a native Thai speaker. I believe they're from Thailand. They're from Bangkok. So they've been giving me, they're the ones who gave me the links to the actual official F4 dolls. And they've been like, you know, very helpful in so many ways. So really just wanted to give them a shout out because I wasn't able to grab a comment from them because they're not able to comment. So thank you, Danny. Dan.mp4 said something interesting is that Goya dresses in unisex clothes because in the end she has to pass down her clothes to her brother, and I love that detail. Also, I think that is MJ who says the thing about Team Goya at the preview, but I'm not sure. They always tend to mix and match audio and visuals on the previews to make it confusing. And I just wanted to give like small applause to Dan.mp4 because other people have said both of these things too in the comments. But it was such a short comment. I was like, yes. So thank you, Dan. Ray Avalez said about the bar scene, I still remember a conversation with my dad about boys only want one thing and how much I didn't believe it until I saw it happen among my high school friends. You learn to judge people by their actions. You learn to wait to share private things until the other person has earned your trust. And as a teacher, I see these kinds of goings on the daily. And that scene hit me more like the proverbial warning more than anything else. Am I the only one that got that kind of vibe from it? It was interesting.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily take it as a cautionary tale vibe, although it was framed that way. I don't know that Goya feels that way after, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think again, it's
could important. Play into Ren though. This could play into Ren, right? I don't think it's going to play into Thyme necessarily because Thyme is literally like, yes, ma'am, to anything she wants. So I think it might be more of a Ren thing, which is interesting too.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I thought it was good to highlight that because we talked about how much we did not like that scene. And there were plenty of people who talked about how it gave her more agency. And there's some really good conversation in the comments about like what it did versus what it didn't do. And this was a different take that I thought was interesting. So,
yes.
Yeah, so thank you. Sil said, many people didn't get the bear story and thinks Goya is the doll now, which she isn't. Goya isn't a doll, but she pretty much is becoming Tom's most beloved and precious person. I think I think with him telling the story, this scene will be very important to analyze what's coming in the future because we know the exactly reverse / opposite of this childhood moment will happen in a sort of way when Ren comes back, and it will break Tom's heart. I hope people are catching these details because impact definitely will be harder than it is than other versions after this brilliantly executed scene.
I think I replied and I said, I agree with everything you said. This is brilliant. Like seriously. So yeah, what the fiction in the comments, I'm like commenting on everything, but no, this is how smart the storytellers are. They think about, hey, where is this going? And what little piece, little scene, little moment could we put in to the story now and have it pay off tenfold later?
Exactly.
It's because they're able to really know the story based on all the other versions, based on really understanding the story. And I give that entirely to the benefit of the fact that this story has been made so many times. It's been iterated on and understood and analyzed by literal generations now. I was trying to explain it to somebody and I'm like, it's like Pride and Prejudice. It's been made so many times that it's starting to kind of have a refinement to it. Where people are able to actually kind of understand the story on this very meta level, and then also when it's being told, pull those threads out and make sure it's successful.
Right. I think there's like that's that part of that collective storytelling, right? Like anytime somebody new puts their hands in this, it's going to provide more meaning that wasn't there before, or at least was not magnified before. So, and that gives more people the ability to understand it in a different way every single time. So that's why it's so good. So Hufflin Puffs says, silver car moments. You see that same little silver car twice when he drops her off after the date, and then in the last scene after the gate falls. Most likely Hana, 98% sure it's her. So after this week's episode, this was not like a revelation, right? So
yeah,
this might not be the thing, but I wanted to highlight it still because one, I love speculation. I love, theorizing, even though it's a story that we know, like we know what's going to happen. But I still find it fun. And also I have a theory going forward that actually might work with this.
What is it?
I'm not going to get too far into it yet, but the basic theory is that I think Hana is coming back.
Oh, I have the same theory. Okay, so but it's entirely based on Hana Yori Dango lore. So I'll get into that when we get into it.
Okay, good.
It's entirely based in what the story needs to be successful in some ways. So
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I'll back you on that one. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So thanks, Hufflepuff Puffs. You have the same idea as we do, I think, maybe going forward. Okay. So this week, we have added a new section to our whole discussion. We're not going to do this weekly per se. We're just going to do this whenever we feel like the time is right. And this week, the time was right because MC spent her whole week coming up with this. So this is our section called Who, What, Where. And it is all about the costuming and getting into really the analysis of what this one person is wearing. And this week we're focusing on Tom.
Yes. So 2 weeks ago, after episode 3, I was talking with you on Twitter, and I think I even just blurted it out in a reply to a tweet, and I said, Ty, I think that he wears red when he's in love.
Yeah.
And I think there's something about what he wears. And then I turned on that, and I brought it into our analysis of our last episode, and I specifically talked about animal skin as a metaphor and a symbol for him being sort of like this beast or this animal bridegroom. That's a very common motif in
mythology
and mythology. Yeah. And he literally starts out the show wearing double animal skin. And so there's some key things to pay attention to in his garb. I actually included an episode by episode breakdown on the slide where you can actually see him transform as the show goes on, where you see sort of his underneath change first. And then as he's experiencing more and more of Gorya, he either goes into sort of this key decision-making mode where he always wears black and white, or he takes off of the animal skin and presents something underneath that is only what he's feeling. He's fully revealed. And so it's really important to pay attention to him when he's wearing animal colors and skin. So that's like wearing fur, wearing fuzzy, wearing animal print, right, over top, underneath. When he takes that off and reveals sort of a truer color of who he actually is underneath, and how often that will show red or green, or white. And specifically that big scene where he's in Gorya's lap and she takes off of the jacket, that was key because she's stripping him of his animal skin, that sort of child protection aspect, and his like animal bridegroom aspects, and revealing he is light. He has choice in this, and green and red. And the green specifically starts to come out when he has growth or potential for growth.
Mhm.
And the red comes out. So red and pink are the same in this, but the red comes out when he is love, smitten, completely, like on what the director had said during the intro episode. When he's fully in love, we see red. We see very, very strong. Like specifically, I'm thinking about when he is in his fuzzy robe and he's eating his yogurt and just thinking about Gorya and the kiss and just enjoying that moment. He is just completely gone and smitten.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is, and I did talk about last episode, but what happens this specific episode, where he immediately goes from his decision colors. I'm on the precipice of light and dark, right? So I'm wearing white and black. And he goes immediately into, I'm in love, but I am closed off and guarded. He redons a fuzzy black jacket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sulks in the bar, and it's very closed when he's around Hana.
Mm-hmm.
And then he immediately removes it completely to rescue Gorya. And at the end of the episode, he's nothing but like passion, but still under sort of this dark curse that he is under.
Right.
I love the shirt as well that he's wearing when he rescues Gorya, because, and again, if you know where this shirt is from and if it's purposeful that the black is on there, please tell me in the comments. I want to know if this is actually something you can buy or if it was custom made, because it's like black satin, but effectively does kind of an animal skin type effect where he's striped with this. So he's not completely naked of the animal skin, but he's showing more of his true conflicted self through this, that he is in love, like that's the most powerful color, but he has the darkness, he has the light, and it's the pattern change especially is fascinating. So go back to last episode if you haven't listened to me talk about the clothes, because I went into it deeply as we talked about the episode, and I'll probably point it out when I see something really fascinating with Tom going forward.
Yeah, something I wanted to like kind of touch on too is that the black rose to red rose transition that we're seeing, right? So that's something that's also being like at play,
physically shown on his person.
Exactly. And he's going to go from being a black rose to a red rose. So love is not just smitten, even though right now it's definitely that. It's definitely like he's like in love and that's how it's expressed, but it also is showing who he is going to become. It's like that's ultimately Tom's like color, and that's who he needs to be, and that's also a part of who he is, right? Because again, this is just like taking off layers and like revealing your true self and all of that. So
all of that is there. Like
I love
stripping
it
of the layers that there's always like an underneath to his over like protective animal armor. It's just it's incredibly well thought out. I want to understand, like I don't understand Thai. I'm trying to search on who the costume designer is for this, because it's very purposeful. There's some really interesting things going on also with Tom and Ren and Gorya. So I'm really excited to get into those in the future as well, but I want to get a little bit more information now that Ren is back in the show.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so we'll continue to do this who, what, where with different characters going forward. It should be really fun. All right, this week's lore. Every week we're doing a section about Hana Yori Dango lore. Last week we did the hero's journey and kind of how it applies to our main male lead. This week we wanted to cover the revenge plot because that's the episode and it's such a fun plot. It's something that I never really cared for because I always thought it was so it's just so wacky, it's so melodramatic, and it's so exaggerated. I never really enjoyed it. I kind of cringed every time I'd get to it in any of the versions. But didn't say that about this week's episode. So, but we'll get to that. So just to quickly cover it, in the manga, like this was presented, this is actually like a very long plot line in the manga. Like, I mean, that's typical because it's so long form. And there is a difference between like the long form story and the short form story, the short form story being the Japanese version and this version. But pretty much all the other versions and the manga are long form. And the revenge plot takes a long time to kind of grow. And there's a lot more scenes with who's the Hana character, right?
Yep.
She is kind of slowly revealed, as time goes on, and she reveals herself to Gorya. She reveals herself to Tom, and I'm using the characters' names obviously from the Thai version, but she does that in different scenes and over time. So,
and often she is combined with another character. In Meteor Garden, it's Li Zhan, and in the manga, it is Makiko Endo. And it's smart to pull them together because after this conflict, they both end up helping the main female lead more,
right,
and supporting her.
Right, exactly. It's always really interesting because like the character is really like a bad person, and really what it comes down to, like the fairy tale part of this whole story is all just about it being that she's an evil witch that tries to poison the princess and take the prince for herself. Nowhere is that more obvious than the Thai version, but it took us all these other versions to get there.
Yeah,
because that's what it is, but it was never explicitly put that way, like not really.
In the original manga, she has the character Thomas, which we will go into in a second, put a roofie in the main female lead's drink,
right?
And he works for her. He is her underling. They're inexplicably, or they're connected on a fundamental level. Like she supports him financially as a character. And in each of the versions, he's kind of at her whim in some way. And so they are the same character from a plot perspective. He's just the masculine version of her whims.
Right. He's able to do the things that she's not able to do. And we'll get into that in 1 second. One of the other things I wanted to say was like the difference between the different versions, the different, like kind of the big plot points. Whenever there's the confrontation between I'll call her the witch because she basically is, right? The witch and the male lead, is that she says, I'll do anything. I'll be anyone. I'll be whatever you want me to be. I can be strong and spunky like her. I could be whoever you want me to be, because she already changed her face. So that's like a big part of this, is that she had plastic surgery and
Yeah.
And again, that was all the stuff I was always like, come on, seriously, that's so bizarre. But if you think about it from a fairy tale perspective,
it's like the sea witch.
Witches change their faces.
It's like
they all
Maleficent
do.
In
Maleficent,
Sleeping Beauty. It's like the evil queen in Snow White.
Exactly.
Right. So like these witches, these powerful women of power. I also think of Cersei, who is known for her poisons and poisons men to transform them into her, into her power and things like that. And it's in a heroic journey perspective, it's being waylaid by the road. Basically.
Yes,
like
exactly.
You're being captured and you have to get out of it. It's a confrontation with the goddess of some sort. She is scary and she is powerful, and in many ways, although she's maybe not quite as powerful as the F4 combined, she's equal to any one of them.
Yeah, well, and that becomes apparent in the episode, definitely. Exactly. All right, so Thomas is not in this version, but I think
he's been in every other version.
He's been in every version. Yeah, it's so interesting that they decided to just put him into Hana. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah, and I actually think it was a good choice personally, because they are tied together from a plot perspective. He's kind of the thing that Hana uses to show that, oh, Gorya is not worthy of you, Tom, right?
Yeah.
Like, the main male lead showing to the fame, that the main female lead is not worthy of him, but he doesn't care in the end, and that makes her very upset, right? Just shout out to the Meteor Garden versions, because they end up like using him as sort of, I didn't know I was doing this wrong thing, and then end up coming back as an ally later on in the show, which the Hana character in all other, or in the original manga and in the anime, actually also end up doing. So Thomas always kind of comes back. This is where I think, because they're choosing to kind of combine these characters, knowing that Thomas is just a sub shadow version of Hana, or like something in her power in the rest of the versions, she's going to replace Thomas later on. I fully expect her to come back and be an ally to Gorya.
Yeah, definitely.
More on and that. Also he sort of functions as temptation / also sexuality in some ways, from a symbolic perspective, the burgeoning sexuality of our main female lead.
Yes, because there's also the scene that they did not include in this version, which is where she sees him, and she sees him as like the Ren character, or the Rui character, right? The second male lead. She thinks that that's him, and he's just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, in almost all versions than him. So it's like,
and he's always foreign and exotic. That's another thing about the character, or like something she's never seen before. But it is still just a part of this witch character. It's in ways an illusion and a way for her to cast a spell on the main female lead. Cool.
Exactly.
We didn't need him, apparently.
We didn't need him.
I was obsessed with, like, when are we going to see Thomas? I don't see him on the relationship chart. And I didn't realize that the show creators are smarter than me. Thank God.
Well, they did something brilliant, and that they decided to take away like the time that we needed to understand this character, right? Because that just adds more time to this part of the story, and they decided to take that away and just get to more relationship teasing. And also, like, there's so much more going on with between Hana and Tom that's teased out that we have never seen before. So super, super happy about that.
I just, as a shout out to the Meteor Garden 2018 version, I love Blake, who plays Thomas in that version, and he's part Canadian, and I love him so much. He
interacts with the fandom a lot. Like
I know
he was very interactive, like on Instagram, and he's a good person. So next is our Which Tom This Tom quadrant chart. Last week we ended up on the smitten / sweet area, because he was totally smitten with Gorya, and Ren was out of the picture and all that. This week, my little animation and he bounces all over the chart. So he goes from being smitten sweet to being an angry child to being a sweet child, and then at the end of the episode he ends up at the smitten angry area.
Which he hasn't been in before, but he's mad at what has been going on. And like, back to his clothing, you can see it because he's in black, and there's almost like this flame
a flame pattern. Yeah, totally. It's something interesting about how he's like serious. Like he has now like decided, like, seriously, like he's going to take back control because he lost it in this episode. So there's some anger there, but it's hot. Like it's sexy. It's, it's
Very
like him. It's him growing up. It's him becoming a man. So yeah, that's where he's at. He's not in the child angry. That's not okay. He's in the smitten angry. And that's what we want because that's awesome.
And like shout out to Bright who just absolutely kills this. I am shocked at how much I love this character already.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, he's just amazing. He is just to die for. All right, let's get into the episode. So much.
It literally makes me feel like full of emotions this episode. Like I didn't realize this show would do this to me, but I'm obsessed. Like we named the show this, but like I can't even.
Yeah, same. I wasn't sure. Yeah, I kind of agree. Like naming it F4 Obsessed, it was like, oh, we're obsessed with the story, but it's like, no, like we're
obsessed with this version of
this version
story.
Is incredible. It's so good. So yeah, the episode is called The Glass Mask. And something to note about the title, which I'm sure everybody's thought of this because it's like right on the money. A glass mask, a mask that is something that's supposed to hide your face, but if it's made of glass, then it doesn't hide your face.
Yeah.
Another way to think about a glass mask would actually be a mirror.
I literally wrote the same note.
It's really interesting.
And it ties in again. This is something that we're noticing about these titles, that they hit us in the gut 3/4 of the way through the episode.
Yeah.
Like 3/4 to like 80%, right?
Yeah.
Just absolutely punch us in the face with the dialogue or the symbolism or the action. And this one is no different.
Yeah.
And it's not the obvious symbolism of the mirrors that we see throughout the episode. But it is a mirror. It is a reflection of self. And it's like how do people see you through distorted mirrors? How like the pictures. I was like, why did they print off the pictures when they're so good at
well, because you can,
right?
She's looking at herself, right?
Yes. And yes. Okay. I'm like I was obsessed with this last episode, but I didn't bring it up. But I'm like, why print out the pictures, shrug, when they could have just had this all come out online like they did in the 2018 version.
Yeah. And they've been setting up all of this social media chatter is already there.
And they're so good at it. But they needed to show the picture because it is a mirror. It is a reflection of self.
Yes. She had to look at herself and
this show
so good.
I don't mean to freak out. Like I'm trying to keep it together to like give you good analysis, but this show makes me so happy that it cares this much and it gives us this much food and symbolism and mythology and just like stuff to dig into and feel like that it's communicating and on all of the layers that it has to communicate, like literally talking about the costumes, about the sound design, about the music choices, about the symbolism throughout the whole episode. And we're just on the first scene.
Yeah. We haven't really dug into it at all yet. And we're just totally fangirling like insanely. Well, that's the thing, right? Because somebody left a comment and then I promise I'll try to make this short because we have a lot to cover. But somebody had left a comment about how they listened to our show and were expecting like a bunch of fangirling but instead they're learning all this stuff. And I just wanted to say like fangirling is legit. Like fangirling is totally valid and it's to me it's one and the same. Like to me like getting excited about something and then just digging into like why you got excited about it That's all it is.
Exactly. And like, that's how I started. I'm like, why do I like X? I want to understand this. I want to understand why it speaks to me. And then you dig in and it's like that Gordon Ramsay like meme where he's like, this is such delicious freaking food. Like it's very filling when you actually dig into how the story is communicating its messaging and what it is trying to say, because it's, instead of just, a wafer thin piece of media, it's actually like this really in-depth, nuanced meal.
Right.
Every single week.
Yeah. You used a lot of food analogies last week too. Making me hungry.
It's because this is feeding our brains.
It is. It's so satisfying. It's so good.
It literally injects serotonin into my brain every single week. I'm shocked at how good it is.
Yeah.
It's the top of my media list for years.
Yeah.
I'm beyond excited to cover this show every single week with you, Ty.
Aw. Yay, me too. It's really fun.
Let's get into the show.
Let's get into it.
I mean, I doubt this will be the end of our fangirling, but it is important to just get it out and be like, oh my God, this show, 2 seconds in, brilliant. All right.
Yeah.
Him not believing her. Okay.
Yeah. There were some people that said maybe he will believe her because we have seen a lot of growth from him so far, but that's not what happened.
Yeah. And why does he not believe her?
Because he thinks that she is gullible, and he thinks that from what he's seen, what does he say? You didn't know better.
You have no integrity.
You have no integrity. And but he kind of like domino affects this, right?
Yeah.
Like he kind of goes down this line of things.
He walks himself down that path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does. It gets worse and worse. And he says, you're just an easy girl. Who's ready to get down with anyone, anywhere. And then she pushes him because she's a badass.
Yeah. I love this version of her.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. And 2 is doing an amazing job. But this is always, because like sex work is real work, right? Let's just say that. Right. This is always about how this reflects on him.
Yeah. And this was also called out, right, by our Threshold Guardians. The other members of the F4 in the previous
episode. They warned us last episode. They're like, anybody will do anything for money. Like, and he's like, watch out for that.
And he's like, dang it, they were right. He now thinks like, oh, I should have listened to them, and they were right. I mean, all this stuff is going through his head. You are just this, and it validates these perceptions and these wrong perceptions about people who don't have a lot of money. So the whole time, though, very interesting that MJ and Kavin are watching this go down, and they know something's wrong.
There's a reflection of like being put under a spell or pulling one over on them and like that sort of thing. I also love that you have the chorus of the students shouting stuff out too until Tom is like, shut up, everyone. I'm just trying to have this. I'm trying to process all of this. Yeah. But like they're trying to influence him in what it means for him. And he doesn't let them, which is also like because he is the king of the school. This is absolutely proven in this episode too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So we have him. She says she's that it is her. Obviously, she's like, no, it's not Photoshop, but she's not willing to explain herself to him because she's just mad. She's mad that he doesn't believe her, and she's not going to deal with it because she's a badass.
The key to any sort of love, true, loving, lasting love, is trust.
Yep. Trust. So we get the commentary from the side. MJ and Kavin, they know something's up. Said, all I know is someone thinks we're stupid. And then it is MJ who says, I'm switching to Team Gorya. And then Kavin says, me too.
Me too.
Which is really important. However, I did want to call out that this is about, we are being challenged in our own domain.
Yeah.
This isn't about seeing Gorya and thinking she's awesome for standing up for herself. They don't care about that. They think Gorya is still bad trouble for Tom. They are seeing this as the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yes. And also, if Gorya is in a way a part of Tom, this is also protecting their internal unit.
Yes.
Not protecting Gorya for the sake of protecting Gorya. So really, really key stuff. Just it's just from a different angle, and that's because they still need to grow too.
Yes. Character motivations were never this fleshed out in previous versions. Like, they never got to this level of detail. But in this
because
version,
they talk so much, they actually say things instead of just like looking cool all the time. Although during one of the behind the scenes specials, Win actually talks about how hard it is to look cool all the time.
Yeah, he said it's not that, he said shooting isn't hard, it's looking cool all the time. Like, he was exhausted by it.
Because you have to sit a certain way or stand a certain way and always just kind of be like posing like a model in some ways.
Yep.
And that is very draining to be ever presently aware of your own body and like how you're presenting yourself externally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
it's exhausting.
Oh my God, I love them so much. And they're little like, we're taking on this mission.
Yes. Like, so yeah, that's what happens next is like they say that they're gonna figure out who did this, and Cunning and Gorya are having the same conversation on the phone. And they're like, we're going to get down to the bottom of this, and then they reveal the name of the episode. And then we go to the club where Cunning and Gorya show up. And it's so funny because I always forget how much younger they are. Like, they're like 2 years younger.
Yeah. So the F4 is in grade 12 and they're in grade 10.
This is such a great like little thing though, because it's showing us like, look how small they are in these clips. Like, I love how small they look in these clips, with Cunning and her, like her school uniform from the other school where she attends. Like, she's so much smaller than Gorya. And then Kavin is like, I'm a member of this club. Like, what are you doing here? Even though
he calls them little girls.
He calls them little girls. Yeah.
And small girl or little girl is still being translated as chipmunk, which is adorable for me, but apparently it's not that. It has a different meaning. But that's in our translation. Is he calls her chipmunk again.
It's so cute. I'm so down for the chipmunk nickname. That's fine.
And like he basically like just calls them out and says, you should be somewhere else. You should be like, why don't you get some food or something? Like, I love it so much because he knows they're not prepared to take care of this. And he's like, I got to go deal with F4 business because people are threatening us. It's not about them. It's about him. So good. But
again, like just the plot is just pushing him and Cunning. And even like with Gorya, like this is just allowing them to just bump into each other more, like literally, because Cunning literally runs into Kavin in that scene. But that's all a part of the plot. That's like the falling in love and all of that. Like, that's what it takes, just being in each other's bubble a lot. So
and in other versions, this character, Cunning's character, only hears about the evil or the badness. It's so much more delicious.
Yes.
That she sees it. She sees him being a womanizer literally in front of him. She sees how he frequents these, like this gentleman's club. He's a member, right? So it's going to be that much more satisfying when we get to his sort of transformation, his understanding of where his shadows lie.
Absolutely.
And that like she still seeks to understand him amongst all of that, because he in some ways is also under a different sort of curse, and we'll get into that when that plot is more revealed.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a cute little gag where he says, aren't you guys hungry? And they they're like, no, we're not hungry. And then their tummies rumble, which is like a gag with like a lot of Asian dramas and stuff. And then they both grab their tummies, and it's so cute.
Was it you or was it you?
Yeah, it was you. No, it was you. Like, oh, it's so funny. Haven't seen it done that way before, and I just thought it was so cute. So
okay.
then
I have to freak out for a quick moment about this. Okay, so he drinks his drink, right? So we get Thyme and MJ finally finds Thyme in a club because of course he's got contacts. So people were commenting like a little bit on my drama list that they were confused about why MJ was going after Thyme and Kavin was going after the club information, because it seemed like that, like based on their characters in past versions, that they would be the reverse. But who could find Thyme at a club other than MJ?
Yeah, it seems about right to me, but okay.
Yeah, it was a different, they played it out. It worked for me.
Yeah,
I don't know. So he finds him, he's talking with him, he throws his glass, Thyme throws his glass and is like, I'm done. And then they sync him tapping the bar
with the music.
Yes, and
so good.
And then the music rises in volume because he's tuning out all of his pain, all of that. This is just like a little tidbit example of how brilliant the production and storytelling is.
Absolutely. So then we have the kind of cut from MJ dealing with Tom and his issues to Kavin at the club with the ladies and looking obviously for the cameras.
Yeah.
And I love how you can like follow his thread of thought. Like you know that he was looking at those pictures like, okay, they clearly have video cameras because this is like a still from like a video. So he's looking for those cameras. And then he gets into like a big altercation, which is so hot.
Yeah,
they did it so well.
They stylized the fight as well, which you and I have talked about. Violence and stylizing the violence means that it's more acceptable to the audience. And so like they do like this rewind thing where he gets like, he smashes the guy in the face like 3 times, and like they kind of do this like very cool fight version of it.
Yeah.
I did want to point out that MJ's power is displayed very, very prominently by the fact that he just literally signals to the DJ to turn down the music. He talks, he offers the entire bar whatever they want so that he can kind of, I think, distract from Thyme being in this state because he's not sure what Thyme is going to do.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think it was him trying to give it a distraction so that people didn't see that he was in this type of mood. Because then I think later in the scene after this, he says something like, when he's like this, he kind of becomes something different or whatever.
We don't know what's going to happen. In a way, so I do think that was really important that we got to see more of MJ's power, and we also see Kavin's power. And Kavin has this line like later on where he's like comments on how, appearances are deceiving. You just thought I was a business person, but I also can kick butt.
Yeah. I like that.
And he puts away his glasses to fight, and then he tries to pull them back on, and then the reinforcements come, and it's just brilliant.
It is. I like this because this is all about the F4 obsessed part, right? Like this is about seeing these guys, totally different personalities, just doing what they do best, right? Just with all of these insane skills. They have all of these crazy skills, and yet they're like terrible human beings that need to learn how to change and grow up. That's why it's so much fun. So yeah, I've really thoroughly enjoyed that scene.
And it's important to see them express their power as well, because so far we actually haven't seen them do anything except for intimidate a school. We literally have not seen them do anything outside of the realm of the kingdom of the school, like the walls of the school. Like, so they've, picked on that one guy, they erased things from his phone. And, Thyme has done a little bit of stuff to Gorya, but we haven't actually seen how much power and what they're willing to pull out if they are threatened or if they want to protect somebody.
Right. Yeah, and a lot is shown here. Like Kavin does threaten the bar owner with, he basically asks him like, who are you backed by, and you know what I could do with just, you know, with my family and with my influence and everything like that. And he says, this isn't just about these photos getting out and like this ruining the security of your club. Like, this is about me being challenged, and I want to know by whom, and about how we're being challenged, right?
It's
So
about the third. It's mentioned 3 times in this episode that
yeah,
F4's power is being challenged by the witch.
yes, which is amazing, because you know he thinks like this is not this girl. You know. Yeah, it's so brilliant the way that they work with these tropes. So then we have the Hana reveal in this like beautiful little red dress. Oh my good lord, she looks amazing.
She looks amazing. And apparently this actress is always this character in Thai dramas.
That's
this is what we found out, that like everyone's like giggling who watches Thai dramas. They're like, this is the actress that does this role.
And yeah, some people were not familiar with like Hana Yori Dango, and we're like, okay, I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen with Hana's character, because she doesn't usually play this role. And those of us who did know the story is like, yeah, so that's going to happen.
Everybody knew it. But
everyone knew it. Yeah.
Just from different angles.
Exactly. So like when it's revealed, it's so satisfying. She just acts the heck out of this. Like, this is her bread and butter. You can absolutely tell. Something else I wanted to point out with this reveal was that MJ was watching the whole time. And this is my theory.
Okay.
Hana and MJ.
Oh, I love it.
I mean,
okay.
If it doesn't happen, I'm still going to ship them. That's okay.
The character often in either the best friend version or the cursed version, right? The witch version, ends up with the main female lead's best friend, the guy best friend.
Right.
Often.
Yes.
Often. So,
but this is so much better.
Because he said she was sexy.
Yes, he did. He said she was sexy. Like, hello. And look,
I love you, Ty. I love your brain. This is great. No, I love them together.
It would be incredible. Like, and also just that moment, like I have a gif of it where she looks off to the side and it looks like she sees him, but maybe she doesn't see him, but he definitely sees her. And it kind of freaked me out because I was like, they kind of look similar. You know,
like her hair is tied back normally, but his hair is down. And like it's like they're switched.
They are kind of switched. That's so interesting.
And like, oh God, I'm obsessed with her dress. Like,
her dress is incredible. It has like tiny little peplum at the bottom so that her waist looks super, super, super tiny. I mean, it is, but still it's exaggerating it. And it's red, right?
He even has hooped earrings too.
You're like looking at this
God.
now.
I'm gonna think about this for days now. Thanks. Brilliant. Yeah.
I like, honestly, if it doesn't happen, I might have to write some fan fiction. Yeah. Because I'm like, I need this to happen.
I mean, there's only 100 F4 Thailand fics on AO3. So and most of them are Kavin and Thyme Brightwin fics.
Oh yeah, of course they're Brightwin. Of course they are. That's great though. I'm so glad that at least there are some. Like, oh my lord, we need more ships. We need more ships. That's my ship.
You've literally just launched a whole unique ship, and if there's any authors that are inspired by this out there, please write us something.
Yes,
we need it so bad.
Bad.
I know he doesn't have much going on, but the writers care about him.
Yes.
And they care about Nani and like his acting. And so they may give us something super satisfying.
It would be cool. It would be very cool. And I would just like I would like him to just teach her to be better, because he's just genuinely a nicer person than she is. Like, so I would love that. I think it would be such a cool, like, role reversal.
Everybody is terrible while the curse under the kingdom is on.
Yes. Right? Everyone.
So,
yeah. But once we get past some of this, then it could be great. But yeah. So anyways, enough of that.
And okay, so this is a major change from lore.
Yes.
Right. So she drugs Tom.
It's the poison apple, right?
It is the poisoned apple. But she doesn't give it to Snow White to have her be under the curse.
Right.
She gives it to him.
Mm-hmm.
And although he passes out in several versions and she takes him back to her domicile, you know, like in a very monstrous lover kind of way. This is just like, it's so smart to change it in this way, and also like really interesting to have her power exerted over him, and it turns it totally into Cersei, like a very mythological, or she's the witch. It brings out that witchliness that you were pointing out earlier so heavily.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so good.
And even the hand on the face.
I love the hand on the face. Oh my God. So I have to call out the music, because the music was incredible and it was all very new. This is Hana as the witch, right? Because we've seen her before and this music has not been used. So this is Hana as the witch. And she has like a lot of synth, but then she has like a kind of like string instruments over the synth that makes it very fairy tale and very magical, like a witch. Okay, so let's listen to this clip, which really highlights the music.
Drinks the drink. And the curse is cast.
And the curse is cast.
And it's the they disappeared behind the bus trope.
Yeah. Like MJ's been watching them from the side, and then he looks down for a second, he looks back up, and they're gone. Again, this is magical. This is like witchery. I love it so much. Like, oh my Lord.
You and I were both not expecting this much psychological, mythological, folklore, symbolism
absolutely
in this
not.
show. Like when we started this, we were like, it'll be fun. They'll do a really great job.
We didn't know what we were getting into.
Yeah, this has taken over our lives a little bit, like with how much effort we put into making sure that we understand what is being said. And but it's also super enjoyable. And like part of that is everybody who's been coming along and like appreciating our commentary. So thank you again to everybody.
Yeah, it's really cool. The community that we have to discuss about it with is just makes it so much fun. So then our prince is now under the curse, and he is our Sleeping Beauty, and it is so crazy.
And instead of like the main female lead being brought to the hotel and having it all displayed across social media, she fulfills that role because she is Thomas in this as well, right? But he has zero consequences for that because it's expected of a young man. So there's also some commentary about society that's happening too.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I didn't think about that. Yeah, like as in if it had been her, which it was in the previous versions, the same thing would have happened. But it's
like literally this exact thing. But Gorya's character in the manga is the one who's roofied, and she's in the hotel, and there are pictures posted of her passed out with Thomas.
Oh, I didn't think about that, about how it's literally a role reversal.
It is. And it's also a commentary in that role reversal because he has zero consequences that happen to him 90% of the time.
Yep.
And she even threatens him later on. We'll get into that. But it's key that they changed it because it's showing we haven't actually gone that far from patriarchal roles.
Right.
Patriarchy is still ruling our society.
Yeah, absolutely. This is showing like, hey, like the world is broken. things are wrong here. Things are bad. I was actually kind of confused about this scene. I'm not going to lie, but I think that clears up quite a lot.
I do want to point out like what is being said on the phone is all about the curse, right?
Yes.
So our
it even has little stars, like
has
it's a magical
stars,
spell.
like it's a magical spell. What can I do? I can't wake him up. What should I do with him? I can't wake him up. Like, oh goodness. And pointing out now, she's wearing pink.
Yeah, that's right. Gorya in the scene is wearing pink, right?
Because she's thinking about him, and when she can't sleep later on, she is also thinking about him.
Yeah. In this scene with Cunning, she kind of like reveals her feelings. And in thinking about him, she says that, you know, it really hurt when he didn't trust me, and when I saw his face there, and we see it from her perspective, which is really just hits home that she cares what he thinks. That's always been the part in the other versions. So,
and like a magic shield, the words Gorya coming out of Tom's mouth stop Hana from kissing him.
Yeah, I loved how princely he looks here when he's like
he's
asleep.
All ruffled up. Yeah.
No one can sleep as pretty as him. I love it so much.
My eyes flutter when I fake sleep, so I could never do this. See,
he fakes sleep really freaking well. Yes.
Yeah.
And he looks amazing doing it. So props to him for that. But yes, his lips look so kissable. So that was so good when he says
they're
Gorya.
using flashback clips so well in this show. Like it hurt, and we see him crumple up the image of her.
Yeah, they do a lot of flashbacks. Yeah.
Just
it's satisfying though, because they'll do it from a different perspective sometimes, which I love, because that's just
like on the bus point. They did that in episode 3, and they do it again in this episode too. So they're like, it's like they have not just a tool belt or a toolbox, they have an entire amazing construction site full of tools that they're just like, we're going to use all the tools. You okay with that? And we're like, yes, we are.
Yes, 100% yes.
and in fact, like it makes almost every week I'm like, this show is putting all other shows to shame, and they should be sad.
Yeah. Absolutely. So then we get the next scene. We go back to the school, and I forget her name, but I just keep calling her the mean girl as part of the mean girls.
She's the main mean girl.
The main mean girl. Yes.
Yeah. And I subtitled this scene "The Kingdom in Riot."
Yes, I love that. That's brilliant, because they don't have a leader right now, or at least
because they don't know what the leader wants. They think they know what this all means, but because he is not present, they make assumptions, and so some of them are acting out and some of them aren't. And it isn't until they have this faux message saying, is the red card back on? Do it, that they feel like they are justified in doing what they're going to do. And then they go super extreme.
Yes.
Right. God, even in front of teachers, even in the hallways, everywhere. They destroying major property. Like last time they destroyed a phone. Like, you know, it's extremely extreme. And this goes back to that righteous, unrighteous leader stuff that I'd been talking about in previous episodes, where Tom sets he sets the rules, and and his rule literally makes everybody else cursed, or makes everybody else like better.
Yeah, exactly. When the baby king is not present, things get even worse. When the baby king is present, things are not so good, but I love it. So when she gets the message, Gorya, I like her face here so much, because it just shows how hurt she is. Like that was kind of like, that was something that he promised her. So now not only have you broken trust, but you've broken a promise. So that broke my heart. And then we get So
the vase.
The vase. Oh my God. This was so good. So this is when we start getting into Hana's backstory and everything like that. And she's sitting in front of a mirror. The mirror is a little foggy, and she picks up the vase with the pink roses, and you hear like a crack, like she broke the vase. And then the scene goes black, which to me, again, with the flower theories, because I love when flowers show up in this, because that's a big part of the lore. It's a pink rose, and pink roses typically symbolize love, and in this case it symbolizes Gorya and Thyme's blooming relationship, just kind of the start of something. And she breaks it, or she breaks the vase, right?
Container.
Container for it.
The thing that was holding them together. And there's two roses.
There's two roses.
And the pink rose was thrown to Gorya previously in a previous episode
Yep.
by the flower shop owner to being like, hey, pursue Ren, right? So it specifically is tied to Gorya's love.
Yes. And she doesn't want that, as we will find out. So she breaks it. So then Gorya has to deal with the worst stuff ever. And we basically already mentioned this, but yeah, so they get Cunning's motorbike and they take it out to the field, and Gorya gets to them before they take it to the stadium, even though I guess that was a goal to get her to the stadium, which is funny because the field is reminiscent of the 2001 Meteor Garden, the Taiwanese version. That's where a lot of this goes down in that version. So it looks like that scene, like it's aesthetically similar, which I found really interesting.
It was interesting that they had the motorbike too, because in this other versions and even in the manga, like it's a lot more brutal. The lashback,
right? In the manga,
she's pulled by the motorcycle at one point, and like that damaged. And we've not seen this in so many years. This extreme like she's literally like slapped and like pushed and beaten, like and her property is destroyed. It has not been this bad in many years.
Yeah, and there's something
in many versions. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's something I want to say about that too, in terms of the violence done to her, because while violence done to especially like women, but anybody on screen is, no one wants to watch that. I mean, there's certain people that want to watch it. I don't want to watch it. Right. But like, there's something to be said about the way that they're doing this. And then they're saying that violence occurred, but they're not showing it.
They cut away and then she's bruised.
Yeah.
They show the pushing, but nobody bleeds. They use it very strategically, and also it's probably to keep sort of their rating globally on YouTube.
Yes, I was going to say that too. Yeah, the rating.
So I wonder if it's different on broadcast or not. I don't know.
But there's a difference between like not having that slap in there at all, right? So like the slap, how he pulls his hand back to go slap her,
and it cuts away,
and it shows the dart hitting the board. It's telling us that violence occurred, but it's not showing the violence happening. I am very appreciative of it. I'll give you another example. There's a show called You, and if anyone's ever watched that show, they do something very similar, and that's why they have such a large female audience, in my opinion, is because they don't actually show violence against women. Anything that does happen occurs off screen and is insinuated. And it's so fascinating because something can be violent and still be not so intense and not so heavy if you can kind of do these things stylistically. But for the story, the stressing on like violence is bad and this is a bad thing, like that's all still there, like it's still felt, it's still weight, so yeah, I really appreciate that. And then so that cuts into that scene where we have MJ and Kavin, who are trying to figure out who this girl is, and because that's when the MJ scene where he says she's sexy, and then Kavin puts 2 and 2 together, and they start looking for this girl because of this name and all of that.
Where's your yearbook? And this has been used in other versions, right?
It's always the yearbook. It's always the yearbook. Yeah.
Because they recognize the last name, and that hasn't changed because that's associated with her father's power.
Yes, exactly.
Because patriarchy.
Because patriarchy.
Right?
Yeah.
But this is what's really well done from a story perspective is that we don't get her backstory until the characters are aware of her backstory.
Yeah, there's a lot of that where a lot of this stuff gets mixed up in different versions, especially with the manga where different people figure out things at different times, and it's just very confusing. This is very clean, and I like that Hana gets to tell her own story. Right? Everything comes from her mouth to one person. So, and it's the person that she's the most likely to be honest with. So that's really nice.
It really doesn't matter to us as the audience how the story comes out. And so that's why different versions, they kind of spread it out throughout different people, or different people realize it different things. But to the characters, it matters. And thus, in the end, it matters to us because we're there with the characters, and how successful Hana is as a character and Tom entirely depends on this. And because it's delivered in such a successful manner, it is more successful than any other version.
Yeah,
hands down. I don't know what to tell you. This version literally makes the best choices for this character.
Yeah, I agree. For all of the characters, my lord. So the next, this is this beautiful
the mirror, the glass mask.
Oh my god, it's so good. So I have another gif of this later too, because they use it so much. Like, I'm so happy that they use it so much. But the glass mask, the reason why this mirror is like fogged is like because her perception of herself is not accurate, right? She doesn't like herself. She doesn't like who she is. And she's wearing a mask. She is wearing this other face that she hasn't accepted, and she didn't accept her previous face either. So this all is like kind of coming together to erupt into this storyline, you know? So whenever Tom wakes up, he immediately goes to the window because he's like, where am I? That's his like first thing. I was like, where's my phone? Where am I? And she's not telling him. So he opens up the curtain, the red curtain. And
I'm so happy.
Yes. Because we were so talking about this.
Yeah. Last episode, with the dates, the Ferris wheel, like, and that symbolism from the previous episode being, I'm off in the distance. I'm away from Gorya, who is my person I am on the wheel of samsara with. I've already chosen Gorya. Like, this is well set, and that's how far away I am from her. I'm nowhere near where I need to be right now.
Right. And the wheel also represents like the hero's journey, and like he's like, oh, I've been cast off of
I'm so far away from where I need to be on my path and my road.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's so funny because I don't know how much is like, I don't know what they're thinking symbol wise. It doesn't matter because all these things come out like, you know, psychologically and subconsciously.
They care enough to put stuff in that makes logical sense symbolically. I'm like, they wouldn't put this in if they didn't care about the symbolism of the fact that they had written this together, and that this is where they met, and this is an important symbol. It's like putting somebody's couples song in a scene. This is a couples thing. He realizes he's far away from his path, Gorya, everything.
Exactly.
Just pointing out what she's wearing.
Yes, the green robe, an olive green robe, but like
she's wearing Gorya's colors.
Yes.
Because he had told her Gorya, and now she's like, well, I can be Gorya. I can be anything you want me to be.
Yes. Before she was wearing,
will even dress like that.
Yeah, I'll even dress like that. Before she was wearing the red, like that was his color, right? She's like, yes, I know this is seems to be your
cute.
color. Don't you see me? And when he didn't see her, so she puts on the green. I can be
Yeah.
whatever you want me to be. Oh,
Because
so
the red
good.
is his true self. Like we've
Yep.
talked about this earlier on.
Yep.
But he is currently covered in his skin. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of the skin metaphor, right? So she's got a new skin. She has changed her skin to be like him
Yep.
in his animal skin, that he wears to protect himself because she understands him.
Yes. And if you want to get you want to go some more layers down on this really weird scene, the curtains are red.
Yeah.
So him opening up the curtains is like him looking into his subconscious and like him looking inside of himself. And then
even
she
look at
closes it.
Look at
Yeah.
the pillows on the couch.
Yeah.
No, seriously, like color theory wise, like this
Yellow.
is the ultimate temptation zone
Yeah.
for Tom.
Yeah.
There's red, there's green, there's, the childish, like, I understand who you are. Look,
Yeah.
this entire atmosphere is built for you to be tempted, to be waylaid from your path, from Gorya, from where you need to be.
Yep.
But he's not even tempted for a second.
No.
God, that's hot.
But
like,
it's so good. As soon as he sees that wheel, though, as soon as he peels back those layers of himself, he sees past the curtain, he sees past the room. Even though she shuts it on him, he's like, no, I know now. I remember now, right? I've woken up from this.
I've broken from the curse. Yeah.
Broken from the curse. Yeah.
So it's the equivalent of your lover's kiss.
Exactly. It's so good. So then we get Hana's backstory, which is so good. So we see that she grew up with them. She was in elementary school with them, and they bullied her, or at least Tom bullied her and ignored her, didn't take her cookies, which I thought was adorable. And so she decided to change her face. And again, this goes back to the witch type of trope. Yep. She is the queen of the realm, or at least that's how that's what she wants to be. So she decides to maintain that by these witchy means.
Yeah.
So this is the whole point of like the glass mask, right? Mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, sort of thing.
Always working to be more beautiful and removing everything else from it.
Yeah.
I did two things I wanted to point out about the past scene. We get another version of the boys being younger, because it looks like they're in junior high.
It is different, right? They're different actors.
Different. Tom is wearing black and white, and a Mona Lisa picture that is distorted, which is like, she was considered to be the ultimate beauty version of her day or whatever, and they're playing basketball again. So I really hope that you're right, Ty, that we do get the basketball game with Ren and Gorya.
I want it so bad.
Like, this is the second time we've seen basketball.
Yeah.
Like it's important that basketball happens. I really hope that they're being this efficient with their storytelling, just so we can get our basketball game. I also really hope that they go on a trip at some point. I know that's selfish of me. I wanted them to go to Canada. I don't think they're going to do that. I really wanted them to go to a beach. I don't think they're going to do that. I'm feeling sad about not having trips. So give me basketball.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they could always make something seem like it's out of the country, and it's not. They could film in a studio. I'm not
that's what they did with Meteor Garden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They just went somewhere in China and made it look like Canada. So
hired a bunch of white people to
to be there
and be like ski patrol
and speak English, but it was actually very Russian accented. Oh goodness. All right. Anyways, that was a fun aside, but
sorry. But we find out like she's been obsessed with him for a really long time. Her obsession has led her to her beauty obsession, this glass mask, which again, with the pictures on the wall, so this is like her MO, right?
Yeah.
So putting up the pictures of time, she became obsessed with Gorya when they became interlocked.
And
then
her
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say her color is purple. So she like that's a witch color, right?
Yeah.
But then she has like a red color in the corner because she was obsessing over Tom.
Thyme.
Yes. Oh
That's
my
Thyme. And then we get this amazing cut where she wipes off the mirror and we see the version of herself from the past and we see the new version of her and we see just
it's so good.
Purple to brown because she's assuming the role of Gorya trying to tempt him. So this is a lot like in Little Mermaid, the sea witch.
Yes, absolutely.
Assuming the guise of Ariel's voice and pretty appearance to be like, no, Eric, you must love me. It's a witchy thing to do. Like
it is a witchy thing to do. Hey, it doesn't make them bad people. They're just, they're just trying their best. I have a lot of sympathy for witches. I have a lot of sympathy for witches and fairy tales, and I want redemption for them all. Like, honestly, like I love the angst and I love the drama.
The key comes out later on this episode because they're brilliant writers. So
exactly. So on to the next slide here. So then we get this is really interesting to me. So we get like Hana talking about love and hate.
Yep. Don't you hate me? Yeah, I do. But
I love you. Why would you love me? Shouldn't you hate me? I hate you too. Like, I can't help but hate and love you. And he's like he internalizes that for some reason. He's starting to grow. And this boy internalizes that for a second and says, I think I can understand that, because he thinks about his relationship with Gorya and he thinks the kind of stuff that they've gone through. And although that's totally different, and he even acknowledges that it's not the same, but I think I understand these intense emotions that you have for me.
Yes. And it's there's a really thin line in obsession.
Yes.
And obsession is really just because like your entire existence and your thoughts are filled with that other person. And this is something that like very deep fictional writers get into quite well. Orson Scott Card realized in his book, one of his books, he talks about how to really understand your enemy, you must find a way to love them.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing, is because you end up being so obsessed with that person that you bring them into yourself. It's like consuming that hate and that shadow, and then it becomes part of you, and in the end you end up loving that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's weird how close hate and love are from each other.
It really is. And that's kind of like how I feel about it too, is like she like thinking about someone for so long. I mean, it does create like a multitude of emotions. So, and we've talked about this before about fighting takes chemistry, like really fighting for a long time, the shoving, the pushing, all of that all takes chemistry for it to come across in an emotional way. And this is another facet of that. Like, it's just kind of drilling that home. Like these two people, Gorya and Tom, like they're cultivating this relationship, and every time they interact with each other, whether or not it's in a beautiful way or in a not beautiful way. So, and that's what he remembers at the moment, is that he thinks about her, and he thinks about Gorya and who she is, and the moments that he's had with her, both bad and good, right? And he says, you're not her. Like Gorya is Gorya. Like, no one can be her.
And this is like down to my point that I made several episodes ago. Gorya is, or his sexuality is Gorya, like that.
Yeah.
Like it's demisexual, right? So he only is in love with one human.
Right. Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
But what is amazing about this is the empathy that he shows.
Yeah. This whole scene is like a Tom that we haven't seen yet. And that was just, oh, it was so beautiful. And he was just so sweet. I mean, this is definitely the part where he dips all down into this sweet, caring person, you know. He's thinking about someone who should be an enemy, but he understands them because he sees himself and he sees certain things that he's gone through in her.
And you can't force love. Love is always freely given.
Yeah.
And like you can't, it's not something that necessarily needs to be reciprocated.
Yeah. And that's the next part, right? Because when Hana threatens him with the piece of broken vase, he knows that she doesn't want to hurt him. So she then says, you know, like, say that you love me, or like reciprocate this basically. And he's like, that would be a lie. And he's saying it like, you know, it would be a lie. Like, come on, you know, it would be a lie. Like, that's not going to be satisfying.
Like, this is not what you want. And
yeah. Oh, and so.
And he hurts himself.
Yes.
To save her from hurting herself. And this is growth. Like the green, right? The green growth. But it's key because he is willing to get hurt for others. He's willing to put himself in danger finally for the betterment of people around him that are not Gorya, because he knows that that's the right thing to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And he tells her, like, he says, I'm sorry. And he says, the person you should love the most is yourself.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. Like, it's literally like, oh my God, we've gone 5 steps forward. I just know, like, next episode we're gonna go like 3 steps back. But at least we did something. This is so exciting. You'll notice all the green in the background with the pillows. Because he couldn't change his outfit. Okay. Like, I love it. Like, yeah. So that's like, why there's a ton of stuff going on with color theory as well. And there's another scene that we'll get into with more growth. Yeah. God, I love this show. It's so good. All right, next scene. We're back at the field where Gorya is getting bullied, and there's something weird that happens here. I didn't really catch it on my first watch. I had to go back and like rewatch it when I was doing the gifts and stuff, which was that the teacher, she's like, stop it. An administrator, maybe the administrator of the school or a teacher is like, hey kids, stop this is going too far, don't you realize? And they're like, don't you know who okayed this? Yeah. So that's, and she kind of like, she gets quiet and she's like, okay, because it's like, it's almost like the kids are bullying the teacher here a little bit. This is like one of the only teachers that was like stood up. What I tended to notice in this particular case was that so far you had like an older woman who kind of ignored what was going on, like an older woman teacher, and then you had like a couple of male teachers who kind of walked the other way. Yeah, they kind of looked the other way, or like literally lied about what had happened. And this one is kind of a younger woman who's like, this is going too far. Like, what are you doing? And all these kids are surrounding her. And it's just, I don't know, it just felt really poignant. It was very odd. Again, it's almost as if they're calling out the idea that you do need to have like, you know, a diverse group of educators around in order to kind of fight against the system. And in this case, even though it's extreme, even though it's fictional, like, this is the system and this is a bad system. So I just thought that was interesting. So, and we also get the discomfort in the mean girls finally. God, that's so interesting to me. Yeah, because they're like, oh wait, she might actually get really hurt, and like they're just sad for her. Like, they're just sad. Like they're feeling her emotions here because this is going too far and they know it. Yeah. And that kid is about to like slap her. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, so hard. Oh yeah. I wanted to call it too, because like right before this happens, he says like, are you going to keep standing up to us? And she's like, yeah, I'm never going to give up. Like, I'll never give up. And they show again, like the girls are looking on this like oh my God, like
this is not going to end. Yeah. This is going to end badly.
This is going to be bad. And that's when Tom shows up. And yeah, I love that he doesn't punch the guy. So he grabs him. He's like, come here. And then he goes to punch him. And then he's like,
changes his mind and shoves him away.
Yeah.
He does kick one guy. But when he shows up, we get this sound design of a breath exhaling, like a sigh of relief. And then we get an accentuated breath of sigh of relief from Gorya in reflection of that. So it's almost like they did like Tom's sigh of relief and then her sigh of relief. Like he got there in time, and then like her sigh of relief. It's
that's interesting. I didn't catch that. Oh, I like that. Yeah. So then she starts to collapse. And he grabs her. And it's so good. It's so good. It's so freaking good.
I could watch this scene all day. Like
it's amazing.
The costume change, like him revealing his redness and his love for her and his like and then he bridal carries her.
This is so important from like a fairy tale fictional perspective, because this happens in fairy tales. Like this is a part of being in a marriage, like this is like one of those tropes of like, and that's, he's saving her. He's, it's kind of this damsel in distress type of thing. But again, it's not about her not being able to save herself. It's about him choosing to be that, and him choosing to grow up, and him choosing to be a partner to her. Right. This is about it's really about his story here. So, and she needs that at that moment.
Yeah. And like literally on the edge of collapse, like he wouldn't have picked her up if she wasn't collapsing. That's kind of the thing. It was a reaction.
Right? Like,
it was a reaction, and we get the amazing apology. I'm sorry I allowed this to happen. I'm sorry I'm late, and I'm sorry I didn't believe you. Okay, so there's something in the power of apology that like you need to apologize. Like ideally, if you can, right? Like you need to apologize and then you need to make it better.
Yes.
And he does that because it shows like how much he realized he was wrong. And we've never had a character, this character in any of the versions apologize this much. And it's even called out, which is
called out later. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's important.
It is. I also love how like they're both crying here. Like you can see the tears like dropping from his face. He's completely lost it. Like I was
he's so upset with himself. Like he's just like, I did this to you. And
how could I have done this? Yeah. How could I have let this go this far? Right.
Right. It's like he never really truthfully understood his power and what his power or the absence of his power would create.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
And like literally we see the smoke and like destruction in the background of the bike, and he like walks away and he's so tender and gentle.
Yes, he is.
And she's crying and like clutching on him.
I love that, her little fist on his clothes. Oh my Lord. All the little details are just so perfect. So I did want to highlight, actually, I meant to make this the last slide, but I think I accidentally duplicated it. So if you look up to the left, the Snow White, I put little the clip from Snow White, and then also from the manga, because it's just so funny to me that he is like, let's go, and he's like all serious, and he's holding her and he gives her his shirt in the manga. And then
her shirt is actually like ripped or bloody. Yeah, she was dragged by the motorcycle. Like,
and they try to take her clothes off. It's like a multitude of things. So he comes and he gives her his shirt, and then he carries her to his home, which is the next scene. So this is different than the other versions, because in the other versions he takes her. There's two things that can happen. In the long form, typically, he takes her to his home and just brings her inside and takes her straight to his room.
Mm-hmm.
In the short form, in the Japanese version, they completely skip this scene. They don't deal with it at all, right? They go from the confrontation with the Hana character and them getting
to
both
resolution
injured.
at the school.
Right, to resolution at the school. And it even skips a whole week. It's like 1 week later. But in the long form, he takes her to his home. So this is their way of kind of like doing the better of the two.
Yeah.
But still kind of following the Japanese like format to make it the short form.
But
so
it's so good.
It's so good. Like, again, this is why they took out Thomas. This is why they like changed kind of the Hana plot a little bit.
Efficiency of storytelling, but also, again, we've talked about this so many times already, so we'll bring it up again. But it's being efficient with the story to get at the core aspects that they needed to get at, so that they have the time to literally have the most adorable, amazing scene in existence.
Yes,
presented to us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. The servants. Okay, let's talk about the servants in the castle. So this is Beauty and the Beast completely, because as the beast heals, as the beast becomes more humanized and accepting of love from another, the servants heal, and in especially the musical version, the Broadway version of Beauty and the Beast, the servants that have been turned into household objects actually start to become human. And there's a song called like where they sing about how they're becoming more human again, and they're shocked at the things, but the truth is that the castle, his home, is healing.
Yes,
because he's healing,
because he's healing,
because he's in love and he's becoming more of his true self. Like less cursed is what's happening.
Yeah. And we already know that like these two maids, at least, or they said the maids, we don't know how many there are in this house, but they said the maids were helping him keep that secret of the towel that he was keeping, Gorya's towel. And so it's like, so obviously like the head of housekeeping, the older woman, it's not his ally yet, but we know like that's probably going to change based on other versions. But these two characters here are people that he kind of trusts a little bit more. And I love that they're so different. And again, it's kind of like you said with the Beauty and the Beast kind of aspect of it. They're two very different characters. I really hope they're fleshed out some more, because it was such an adorable moment.
Interaction.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, we probably misheard. And then they kind of walk a little bit and they stop again and they're like, yeah, we misheard. Like, we're not going to accept that he's changed that much that quickly. There's no way.
There's no way.
It's adorable. So,
oh my God. Let's talk about the hiding space.
Yes.
Okay. We have to.
What do you want to talk about first? Because there's a lot.
There's so much. So, okay. So first he comes in, he's like, are you okay here? I'm not allowed girls in my room at night.
Yes.
Okay, so again, this is him being like a child.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He is scared of the consequences of this rescue.
Yeah. This doesn't happen in other versions. Like, he typically just brings her.
Bridal carried her into his house. The next logical step is sex, is intimacy. Right. So he's literally scared. Like, no one else is there. Yeah, sure. Like that lead maid, whatever. But like his mom is gone.
Yeah.
Like, he has literally no excuse to not bring her to his room, but he is scared because he doesn't fully understand everything that's going on and how intense this is, and he's not ready.
That's a good point. For the plot of this version, I think they're trying to keep the house, the head housekeeper, like, so that she doesn't know what's going on, because right now the head housekeeper is doing the bidding of the mom.
And she needs a transformation due to Gorya, I think. So what they're gonna do is that she's gonna interact with Gorya, and Gorya is going to heal her.
Yes, that makes sense for the other versions because of all of that stuff that happens. Won't spoil too much. But yeah, so another part of this, oh my God, can we talk about the coloring?
Oh my God, yes. Okay, so we can't turn on the lights because it's a secret hidden space.
Yeah.
So we have to turn on these other lights that set the mood lighting that are literally a reflection, a mirror of ourselves. Okay. So he turns on a green light and she turns on a red light. And so the red light is behind her, the green light is behind him. And then they turn on a meteor garden of sorts in a star and moon light that throws green magical specks everywhere. It's sort of like a wonderland.
Yeah.
And I keep on thinking like this is like a hidden like alcove or something like that, and it's very magical, and it felt a lot like Ariel and Eric when they go into like the
like cove, like, or the little pond, like with all of
when they're
singing
on the boat together and like
yeah
la 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 kiss a girl da, da, da. Like it felt like this secluded moment in time.
It did.
And very magical, but specifically the colors. So green is Gorya. Green also represents the growth that Tom is going under.
Yes.
Red is Tom, and it is behind her. That both of these things are reflected everywhere. But specifically, this is about how when you're in love with another person, you take a piece of them into yourself.
Yeah, because like, especially with the wound stuff, the wound dressing, right? Like, let me dress your wound. No, let me dress your wound. And when he goes and tries to apply it, he presses a little bit too hard. And she's like, you're too harsh, be softer, which is like him telling her, or her telling him like, just, you need to be softer, like in general. And there's a line that he has here as well, where he says like, I think it might be, he says like, if I could just work on myself more, things could be better. Like, I know I have all these problems, I know I have these issues, like, but I know I could be better if I worked on those things. So this was his way of like apologizing and trying to move towards that.
And symbolically, he is trying to heal her wounds that he has inflicted on her emotionally by showing that he is healing her wounds physically. And this also ties to, as the apology, in so many ways, you would rather not have your lover in pain compared to yourself. Like, you can withstand any pain as long as the person that you care most about in the world is not in pain, because you choose to leave your heart with that person. And so not only are they in physical pain, but you're in physical pain when they're in pain. And it's so much worse when the person that you love most in the world is in pain.
Yeah, exactly.
I did want to point out that Patha Songpan, who's the director of the show, tweeted out before the episode released, and I sent this to Ty last night. And his @ on Twitter is Adam Family Man, and he's like, not sure how to share this without spoiling, but in episode 5 there's a sentence that caused the actors to laugh and scream so hard during the read through. And I think it's in this scene. I think it's, how is it possible for her to make me fall in love this hard after he goes into like why she's not good for him. Like, like, oh, you're covered in dirt, you're covered in bruises. Like, it was very Pride and Prejudice, which is like, like
you're
like your family's nothing, you're embarrassing, and your place in society is so below my own, but I love you so much. Right. I think it was this line.
I looked it up today. I was trying to find another tweet, like a follow-up tweet that he posted, but he didn't post anything after that except for like replies to that one. So he didn't give it away yet. But I'll be curious to know if he does say like what the scene was, because I am so like, what?
Was there any other moment that just absolutely crashed your heart?
I mean, he said like laughed too, right? Like, it was funny. I mean, I don't know. There was a lot. This
and episode is good.
I don't know. Yeah, so good. I hope he says what it was. But yeah, he does. He confesses, and it's like I wrote down here that it was like such an awkward confession. Like he kind of stumbles over it, but it's really cute. It's just so sweet. It's very much a Tom confession of love. So then,
and she immediately falls asleep.
Yeah, he starts to talk a little bit more, and he's like, he's like, I know I have some issues with like, but you have to be like, if you're far from me, that's a problem. You have to be, and he means to say like, you need to be my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then he sees that she's asleep. So then he takes her, and I don't know if you saw this, but his left hand is shaking the entire time
because he's like trying to be so careful, and he's nervous, and like, wow, Bright acted the hell out of this.
Yeah, hell yeah, so good.
I identify with this scene so much because I fall asleep in 2 seconds, and my husband has said something to me, and I've fallen asleep, and then he keeps on talking, and I'm like, and I answer him because I'm like, I'm already asleep, but this scene felt very real to me. So
it's really funny. That's really funny. I remember we talking about the last episode where you said like, it doesn't really matter what you're doing when you're together as long as you're with that person, right?
Mm-hmm. Like be reading a phone book,
Yeah, they could just be talking. Like this feels like that. This feels like those moments that I've had as well with my husband, like, he'll be reading from something, and I don't know why in college, but that was just something that we did. He read and I listened, and I would eventually fall asleep.
My husband did that for me too.
Oh,
yeah. I also want to like point out how childlike this love is. It like with the blankets,
blanket fort.
It's like
a blanket fort. Yeah.
It looks very sweet and innocent, and just how they're playing it, and it really just symbolizes like the new blossoming love that they have together. And oh god, he's so gentle with her,
so gentle. He tries not to touch the side of her face that's bruised,
and like tender, and like just like holding her. When we saw this in the trailer, we were both obsessed with this scene. People were like, she's bruised, and I'm like, is she? Oh my god, is this post whatever scene? I did want to point out one thing though. In the Japanese Hana Yori Dango version, they pulled together that the jealousy plot and the Thyme gets beaten up for, or Domaji gets beaten up for her plot, right? They pull that together into the same moment. I absolutely think we will still get that scene later on. I know a lot of people, that's like one of their pivotal moments for the show.
Yes.
It's like it's a key critical thing.
Oh, it's super important. It's super important.
It is in every single version, including the musicals.
Yes,
that version. So I do think that, but they're going to pay absolute respect to what that means in that moment.
Yes.
So I think it was right to separate them and to deviate from the Japanese version in this.
Yeah, I agree. Oh Lord, I'm going to be so happy when that happens. So the next scene, so Gorya wakes up. Yeah. Gorya wakes up and finds that he's gone. He's not there, which is interesting because this is like a mark of like him growing up. He gets up before she does, and he like takes care of business. He's like, I got stuff I got to do.
I got to go and fix this problem.
Yeah.
I got to go and be king for a moment here. Okay.
Yes. Again,
I got to go be king.
Him being absent was not a good thing. So
and so he's back in it, and everything is straightened the hell out. Like so she has like, where did they get this uniform that fits her?
Oh my god.
Right? Uniform, shower, taken care of. My lady is taken care of. He not only he upgraded her uniform subtly, but he got her the same shoes.
Yes, I saw that. The shoes. That was interesting. And I have something to say about the jacket too, because she's never worn that jacket.
she's never been able to afford the jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So in uniforms, sometimes you have options to like play out, like do different things. Like, oh, hey, you got the skirt and you've got like the pants and you've got the, school uniforms. They've got options. F4 doesn't care. They never wear their uniforms. But he gave her something and he snuck it in. Right? He didn't replace it 1-to-1. He didn't give her the cheap thing, i.e. the vest.
Yeah.
No, the vest. He didn't go with the vest. He went with the blazer, which is always going to be more expensive, right?
Yeah, that's true.
He snuck in giving her something more.
I love it. Yeah, and then he tries to replace the motorcycle. But it's funny because then he calls her, I think, and then she tells him, you went too big again. Like you did the same thing as like the bus, basically. Like it's the same thing. Like you went too big. Like this is too much.
Yeah, but it was your friends. You're giving it to your friend. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So I love that. I think it's brilliant. And then
her phone is even more broken.
Yes, the phone is still not been replaced, which I like your theory about, like he's gonna have to buy her a new phone. Like that would just be perfect. But yeah, still that element of miscommunication is probably still important, probably for their relationship. So it hasn't been replaced yet. And then Tom calls MJ about like, have the bullies been dealt with, and he's like, it's done. And
I saw this during one of the specials and I was like, what happens here?
Oh, it was in the special, but it was also in the kind of the prologue narration thing that happens in the very first episode with the monologue that Tom has. I think it happens there as well, because that's basically our first shot of like MJ, and it's a brilliant shot. Like it's so funny. And again back at the stadium, which I love. So,
and MJ doesn't use any of the students to do this.
No, he's got his people.
He uses his external power.
Yeah,
there's so many fascinating things about F4 actually exerting their like will on the school.
Yeah,
like he pays out so much money. They know exactly what's happening. All of them are working and coordinated together. And now that like MJ and Kavin kind of have their leader back, like they almost seem more comfortable too.
Yeah, I think so. Again, this is Tom like getting back into his role and like executing things. Like it's so good. So then Kavin tells Gorya, I have something that you might want to know. It's about Hana, and it's basically just that Hana is going the letter says about a study abroad type of thing. So Hana's like leaving the school, she's resigning from the school. So then we have a confrontation.
I have a question. This is speculation. Bets that she's gone to Singapore.
Oh,
based on what I've said, that they've combined the characters of Thomas.
Because Thomas
goes to New York in the original manga, and that's where he helps her in the future.
Okay, I like that. Because that could get us. That could do a lot of things, actually.
It could do a lot of things and replace that need in the story. And this is where the Thomas conversation, where he fulfills a need in that he goes from being, sort of a useful thing that ends up helping her be an ally in the future. And Hana, because of, what we're about to talk about in this scene, has been healed and will become an ally in the future. I personally think, and I specifically think she'll be in Singapore, because I mean that's where Tom is going to go, because that's where his mother is.
Right. There has to be something in Singapore because So the next scene. So now we have our confrontation between Hana and Gorya, and I mean, like, it's not really a confrontation. Again, like this character is gonna come back.
It's a amends of sorts. Actually, it's like a postscript or a epilogue to their relationship for now.
For now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because she's like, do you have anything to say to me? And Hana says, no, I have nothing to say to you. She's like, well, I have something to say to you. And then she says the nicest thing. She's like, I never felt like you were faking with me.
Yeah.
And she cries.
So this character, it hurts. It's perfect. She's all about love. She's all about forgiveness. And she's all about showing people like that they were valuable.
Yes. And I want to say something about this interaction is really important is that Gorya is wearing a new uniform and she's wearing the jacket for the first time. And
they're on the same level.
They're on the same level. This finally gives Gorya like this step up. Again, it's like when Ren and Gorya fought and they pushed each other and Ren pushed her back onto the curb, which put her higher than him to get them on level footing so that she could look into his eyes. This is exactly the same. It's like they are finally like kind of on equal ground. And now Gorya can say what she needs to say to this person who's done something horrible to her. I just love that detail. That detail is just So
I love the lactosoy apology as well. I am obsessed with this story.
This is an Asian drama trope, by the way.
I did not know that.
Yes, leaving messages on little milk cartons. That is a thing that it showed up in Coffee Prince. Remember Coffee Prince?
Yeah.
K-drama. She left him a note on a milk carton. I mean, that's a thing. It's adorable. It's a school age type of thing, right?
And she consumes the story, and thus their relationship is healed. So when Hana comes back in the future, which I'm sure she will, she will be healed from that, and their relationship will be stronger because she has brought the story into her and is grown and fulfilled from it.
Yeah, when next time they meet, they'll be ready to move on to the next chapter.
Even though it was a ridiculous product placement.
It was. Yes, it's the lactose.
I appreciate product placements that actually do something symbolically, so it's cool.
They've been pretty good with them so far. I'm used to them by now with watching so many Asian dramas, so it doesn't bother me at all. But they've used them pretty well.
Can we talk briefly about his shirt?
Yeah, the shirt that he's wearing in this last scene.
Yeah,
with the flame on it.
Okay, so where is his animal skin, Ty?
Yeah, I was looking for that, and I don't see it.
He's taken it completely off. Why?
Because he thinks he's confident. He's like, this is my woman now. And I have no need to wear it. I have no need to be threatening.
Yeah, he's completely removed his animal skin because she is in his mind his. But he is still under a curse.
Yes.
But his passion, his red, this bright red pink color on his shirt is flames.
Yes. I love that.
But it's satin and smooth and like he's starting to like be less bristly, right? Yeah. Oh God, the costuming kills me in this show. I think you guys can all see why I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Because it's so purposeful and wonderful. I think he's wearing a key necklace too. I don't know.
It looks like a feminine symbol to me.
Yeah, something like he's gone. He's got there. But then we get this like, so he's like, anyone who has a problem with my girlfriend has a problem with me. Like he reasserts her authority within the school. Yes.
He kind of lays down the law a little bit more. Like this is not just about the red card. Do not mess with her. If you mess with her, you have a problem with me. And then we get the whole like remembering things a little differently. Tom. So they do these little flashbacks, which is so cute, where he's like, yeah, you agreed, like you verbally agreed to being my girlfriend. Don't you remember? And she's like, absolutely not. And then they flash back to this and this again, this gets back to just this childlike love that you were talking about as well, of that scene. He just doesn't really, he doesn't understand it logically. He just accepts that this is happening. It already happened in his head. He's already there in his head. So
yeah,
he doesn't
we didn't
need
really
much.
talk about one moment, and can I bring it back?
Sure.
He says that this is way back when we were originally in the scene, but he says what happened with Hana was actually good for us.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And she says, how beaten up, absolutely destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, it made me realize that we were in love. And I totally skipped over it because I was talking about the quote from the director, but
there's so much that happened in that scene.
There's so much that happened. It's so dense, but I have to bring that back around because this all comes from a place, and you'll notice he is lit by the green, but it's also kind of yellow.
Yes.
And so the green is like, I'm growing, but it's a childish growing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, it's all about his lens of this love, not fully understanding that she's not necessarily there yet. She is there a little bit, but not 100%.
Yeah.
Right. Because like it was good for us. Well, it wasn't good for me.
I love that so much. Yeah. So then he definitely like gets this idea that she agreed to dating him to go steady in his words, right? And he's so happy about it. He's like, yes, we got this. And then he leans over to turn off the light, and she moves a little bit, almost slightly kissing him, just like tiny bit,
touch of a lip
touch.
brush. And he becomes super shy, spazzes out as best he can.
It takes us back to that first scene where they had their first kiss, the accidental kiss. It takes us right back to that.
And he covers his face like a little boy.
Yeah.
And like just absorbs it like,
yeah. He's so smitten and he's so happy, and all he wants is them to just be happy and be together, which again, 5 steps forward, 3 steps back type of thing we're going into. So then we see Kavin and MJ are looking at all this from above, which I love.
Laughing. It's the like commentary on that we're thinking too, like, oh my gosh, they're never going to be happy. They're always going to be fighting, right?
They're always going to be fighting. Yeah.
Well, if they're in this place where they're actually not on the same page yet, they're going to be fighting because the conflict is still there. They're not actually simpatico yet, right?
Yeah, true. So, and of course, right after this is when we get the scene that we have actually seen in the music video, in the wind, and Ren is back. And he wasn't gone for very long, thank God. But he gives her a look, which you know immediately, this is a different person. This is a different character.
Talk about it?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay, so one fundamental piece of Ren's character is he was the first person to protect the main female lead, Gorya. He feels a sense of responsibility over her. This is in every version of the story, that this character feels a sense of ownership or responsibility over her, and actually questions Tom's ability to protect her.
Yes.
In other versions later on.
Yes.
And I specifically think that this is going to be one of his motivational factors to how he's going to behave over the next couple of episodes, because he's going to see how destroyed she is from leaving, right? And he's going to blame Tom. Like, he's going to be like, you didn't do what I thought you were gonna do.
Yeah, you didn't protect her enough. Like you did not
vigilant. Protect her. Yeah, and it's because he is the first person that actually does protect her.
Oh, that is spicy angst.
But like the look he gives her, and he tips his head.
Yes,
like, you're bruised, you're hurt. What's happened?
That's how I saw it too.
You're not the same shape that I left you.
Yeah. And
Did
now
Tom do this to you?
Yeah, that could be where his mind goes. And honestly, like, because we know what's going to happen in terms of, you know, everyone can speculate this, even if you don't know the story, that he left Paris, he left Mira, and he's a different person now. He is no longer just the Ren who is obsessed with being at Mira's side. He is someone who is now trying to figure out what he is and who he is without this other person. And the only other person that he's been that close to in that way is Gorya. So it's kind of like this weird the game that they're going to start playing after this.
Yeah.
It's so enticing now that I'm like so into this character, which I never was before. I have to say, like, you know, Meteor Garden 2018 really, you know, kicked up the angst, but that's because it's the long form, right? So we got a lot more scenes and we get a lot
more time.
Yeah, more time. Yeah. That got me to like this part of the story so much. So even though I didn't really like the character that much, but now I am sold on this character. Like this version, this Ren is like, I'm so, it's like magnetic. I'm so attracted to him and I want to see what's going to happen with this plot line. Like, oh my God.
I gotta call out on my drama list, there are so many people who are like, Ren, don't come back. We just want more time. And go, yeah. But it's important because this is another trial, right?
Yes.
This is the person that, you know, she is still in love with.
The only reason why people don't want him to come back is because they know their chemistry is so good. Like, I mean, I've Tom and Gorya to the ends of the earth, like 100%. But you don't get to that relationship without this playing out. It needs to play out. It hasn't played out yet. It needs to go there because she still has a crush on him.
She has to resolve her feelings for him. I do want to point out two things. So, because like it's going to be an entire week and we're going to see another episode before the next episode. Ren's color of like who he truly is blue. It's very calm and all of that. And we actually see more, like even in the previews, we see actually Tom wearing blue.
Oh, interesting. I like this. I like that theory.
And blue is showing up in Tom's outfit in the conflict of at the party, the house party. He was wearing his leather jacket with blue, black, and green underneath.
Animal print. Okay.
So blue is the love that he has for Ren. We also see blue in Gorya's outfit once he has given her the handkerchief. So blue is important. So if we see more blue, that's significant, as well as pink on Ren.
Okay, so you just blew my mind because I just thought about something about MJ. Yes. So, okay, sorry, this is like kind of an aside, but MJ's flower is purple.
Yeah.
And Hana's color is purple. Sorry, just had to throw that in there.
I know. I'm very invested in your theory now. So I'm here for this.
I mean, fingers crossed. But I mean, if we're getting into like colors, Ren, I like the idea of blue because I think that that's just such a good color for him, especially contrasting to Tom's red.
Yep.
I think that's beautiful. And I think also the black and the white turning to blue and red. Yeah. Right? Because I wouldn't say that Ren's color is white, but his flower is white, right? Yeah. His flower is the white
It's
cutter.
Just very monotone. Like his colors end up being very monotone. I'll get into this in a future episode, but like if you go back and watch the episodes again, like you'll see how much Ren, Gorya, and Thyme all affect each other.
Yeah.
In their costuming.
It's incredible. The level of detail. Holy moly.
I did want to point out that we are going to get a new OST that'll come out during that like closet scene where they were hiding away in their little secret hideout. Kavin Kasky. It
Is that who
should be
sings
coming
it?
out. Yeah,
Or-
that's who sings it.
Okay.
He's another actor, song artist that is commonly on this production company / channels shows, and
Right.
apparently that's who sings it. I don't even know what it's called. I couldn't figure it out before we recorded. So, but I'm excited. It'll probably come out
Fun.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is it'll probably come out the same day this is coming out.
Yes. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I heard that too. And I heard that song. I was like, that doesn't sound like any of the F4 guys.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Yay. I'm so glad for more OST. Exciting. All right. Any other final thoughts? I think I wanted to say something about like just the fact that, again, the character motivations, everyone's affecting each other, and everything that happens gives someone, not someone, everyone, everything that happens gives everyone a reason to do something, right? So, you know, in terms of like storytelling and acting, there's always, for every action there's a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so true in this show. Like every time something happens, like there is a reaction from every single person in the story, and it goes along with their own individual journey. Like you could take every single person and map them onto their own journey, and you could see a very logical evolution of like what happens to them based on what, you know, what they see and all that.
Well, and this ties back to the concept that once you complete the journey, you heal a community. And so like the community is also important in this, and we see it represented so well in how, like, it's part of the original manga, so I'm not gonna like give too much credit to the creators, but they show it and give it the gravitas to the story that like everything this group does affects everybody else, almost like fate.
Well, that's the magic of the meta, right? Yeah. The metaphors, and also like the meta commentary. Like we know how the story ends. We've watched this story, you know, take place in different times, different communities, different cultures, and now we're just we're doing our own thing with it, but we can't ignore that those other stories came first. And so all of that meaning, regardless of whether you want to, like, you can't ignore that. You can't ignore that the Japanese version existed and that the Taiwanese version existed, because all of these are feeding into this version, you know, like it's, they happened, and then therefore they're in this.
Yeah. And they're part of the story, and it's become an iteration on all of the versions that came before. I did want to point out something, and I didn't notice it until I love your gifts, because they show so much more, because so Ren says the school is as chaotic before, and the only person that is chaotic in the school is Thyme.
Yes.
So he's specifically saying Tom did something bad.
I'm coming for you, Tom.
I'm coming for you, because Gorya is hurt.
Oh yeah, there was a lot that was loaded.
So much, and they layer, like, even just down to that scene where they're hiding in the closet. Like, you have to watch it multiple times to pick up all of the subtlety. Yeah, watching the Hana and Tom scene, you have to watch it multiple times to be like, the Ferris wheel is him thinking about Gorya. Like, you know, and if we miss stuff, join the comments, tell us stuff. If you know what is going on with Tom's shirt when he goes and rescues Gorya, like, is that like word? Is that a word? Is that like, what is going on with the stripes? Is that something you can buy? Like, I just want to know more about that shirt, because I'm obsessed with it. Please do comment, because we read them all week long, and obsess and join in the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, like, thanks again to everyone that does comment. Like, we read everything. If we don't directly respond, then that's just, you know, sometimes we're just trying to save things for the recording, or we're just trying to, you know, really contemplate everything and review everything and get down to the bottom of it, because there's just so many people with so many perspectives. So we really do appreciate it. Yeah. Anything else for this episode that you can think of?
Every week I'm like, it can't get any better than this episode.
And then it does.
And then it does. Like,
dun dun dun.
I'm very thankful for having this in my life right now. So thank you to the production company. Thank you to the cast and crew and the directors and writers, especially, for just treating this story with such love, attention, and care. And I really hope that like that gets back to them somehow, that like we get it. We see all the work that you put into it, and it is appreciated.
100%. Yeah, totally. I love it. I love it so much. And I will bully all of my friends into watching it.
That's what I'm doing. I'm literally like, have you watched F4?
Yeah.
And they're like, Claire, stop it. And I'm like, it's the best storytelling that has been done in years.
Yeah.
And I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah. No, it's like, it's incredible. I mean, like, this is the kind of stuff that got me into doing my channel and being a part of online fandom communities. I mean, this is it. Like, I haven't felt this way since 2017, 2018 now? I can't remember, but
talking about The Last Jedi?
Yes, I'm talking about The Last Jedi. Yes.
A bunch of my friends are watching Crash Landing on You right now, which is a very amazing K-drama. And I keep on saying to them, this is Crash Landing on You level quality, but there's also symbolism.
Yes, and there's really not a lot of symbolism in Crash.
There's
a little bit, but it's a lot more
the levels
surface
of
level
symbolic meaning that they are purposefully putting into this show. I'm just going to point out one that I have never mentioned on the show. This entire set has red water pipes, like veins, running through the entire school. I've seen the behind the scene photos where they specifically put in these red water pipes for the fire piece that they used when Ren rescued her from the bullies. Everywhere in this show has red running through it in the school, which is Tom's color. His color is running through the entire school.
Oh, it's the blood pumping through the veins of the school. It's literally like keeping it running.
Organism. Wow. It is part of it.
I love
this
that.
Show is brilliant.
It is brilliant. It is. It's so cool. And again, like some of the stuff that we're gonna say, you're gonna be like, they didn't intentionally do that. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, symbols tickle your subconscious. And like the reason why they're there and the reason why they were put there, the reason why the director looks at this frame and says, I want to fill the frame with these things, they're trying to evoke a feeling. And we're just kind of picking out why we feel a certain way that the director wanted us to feel, right? And the writers and the team and the all the people working on this.
And story is most successful when you listen to your subconscious and just let your subconscious take the wheel a little bit.
Exactly.
They didn't need to put the red pipe in this moment where we see Ren come back. It's in specifically the underground, like, holding area that they have that scene in before, but it's here in this moment.
It's here. Yeah. That's interesting.
The school is an organism and they built those things to show that specific color.
I love that. I love that. I love this color theory. And I'm so glad so far it is really shown to be repetitive enough to take kind of seriously. Like, again, not that it's going to tell us anything that's going to happen, but we're just listening to what's being told. We're just listening to the story that's being told, right?
This is just another storytelling technique that many storytellers actually just straight up ignore, which is when the storytellers use the plot, the script, the action, the score, so the music. So this is quite common in Star Wars, especially. The music does a lot of the heavy lifting with the emotionality of the characters, the acting, the costuming. But then when they also layer on a hefty layer of symbolic meaning, the mirror being fogged, the mirror being wiped, the verbal reflection of who the person is, like Tom and Gorya reflecting on what has happened to them, all being a glass mask, and that they're starting to see each other, but still it's still obscured, you know. It's all just layers that when it speaks to us, it is that delicious meal for our brains, and it vibrates on a way that makes us appreciate the story and stays with us. We'll be thinking about this story for years because of how successful it is at speaking at multiple portions of our brains.
100%. Oh my Lord. Yes.
And our hearts.
Yeah, exactly. So good. So good. Yeah, I think that we've almost gotten down to the bottom of all of it.
All of it.
We'll
Yeah.
we'll have plenty to talk about next week as well. I'm pretty
sure.
Yeah. We're gonna have plenty to talk about every week. So this is our lives through what, April? So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Although there's 2 episodes at the end of at the first weekend in April, so we'll have to figure out how we're going to cover that.
Yes. Yeah, that'll be fun. Super fun. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this or listening or however you're consuming this. And just please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, whatever you can do to interact with this to help other people find it. That's always really, really great and really appreciated. We love you all so much who are interacting with us. So big thanks to you guys. And also, if you would like to follow us on Twitter, you can find me at wit_folly, where I tend to kind of post a lot of my thoughts about F4. You can also follow me on my personal account, which is at black_TYM. And Marie Claire, they can find you.
Yeah. So if you want to just listen to the podcast audio only, you can search that up on your podcast app of choice at What the Fiction. If you want to follow What the Fiction, you can follow it at WT Force Media, or my personal Twitter, which I talk about this show all week long. Marie C. Gould. Links are in the liner notes. Thank you again for listening. And we will be back next week because this blast of serotonin and then being able to actually talk about it and enjoy it again a second time is very addictive. And that's why we're F4 obsessed.
Yeah, F4 obsessed. All right, guys. Thanks again for listening, and cheers to you all. We'll see you guys next week.